Marty Mac is on his way. Wearing the Nautica shirt, what can I say? I'm singing, don't know what to say. But Marty Mac is on his way. I'm full of liquor.
Damn, that was good.
Final day of the Dodge Power Brokers U.S. Nationals is finished. We have an historic storyline to wrap up this entire weekend. And honestly, this has been a fantastic weekend. Not even from a perspective from what I saw, just from the fact of what the NHRA has been through this last week. The fact that we're talking about 4 very important winners to this series winning the U.S. Nationals, but the fact that now we're back to 6 days with 5 qualifying sessions, we have 4 very big key winners. So there was a lot of storylines that came into this event. There's a lot more that came out of it, and we're going to cover that here in a second. But first, I want to give a shout out to the fans. The turnout for this event has been fantastic. Friday, we had almost a really full grandstand of not really max capacity, but we had an incredible turnout for Friday night qualifying, and they came back and they stuck around for the rain on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Monday they came out to watch eliminations. It's absolutely incredible. And the fact that the rain held off throughout the whole day. They started Top Fuel earlier and had the race go a little bit earlier ahead of schedule to try and make it through there. We had clouds coming all day long and keep that nice cool breeze coming at us, and with all of that done, we ended up having an incredible race day top to bottom. And I think we have a fan that's going to come that Kevin invited, so I might have to hand his microphone off here in a second. But first, let's get to it. So, honestly, this is something I want to talk about. I understand this happens. It happens everywhere. When Nitro's over, fans leave the grandstands. They want to go watch Funny Car and Top Fuel. That is what they're here to see. But I think they missed out on what was an absolutely incredible event with Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle, arguably the most competitive class, top to bottom, of the entire event. They were close on the timing sheets, they were close on the track, and they were close in the finals. It's just been incredible. So recapping Pro Stock Motorcycle. So, talking about Pro Stock Motorcycle, we had Angela Sampe getting knocked off by Ron Tornow. She was the first #1 ranked driver going into today. She loses it in round 1. She was very upset on the top end of the track and was very key about the idea that there's no more Mrs. Nice Girl. She is upset. She's going to come back from Maple Grove, a completely another person, so be aware of that. We're going to have a very different Angela for the rest of the season, and that could spell trouble for Joey Gladstone in the championship hope. Speaking of Joey Gladstone, also lost in round 1 to Karen Stouffer. Then we had Aaron Smith lose to Ryan Oler. We had Steven Johnson beat Kelly Klontz. Matt Smith took down Scott Polachek. We had Hector Arana Jr. beating Matt Ingerson. Gianna Evaristo beating Eddie Krawick. And then Jerry Savoy beating Chip Ellis. From then on, we saw Ron. He was a 16th ranked driver. It was a miracle he made it that far into round number 2, beating the #1 driver. He lost to Karen Stouffer. Then we had Aaron Smith versus Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson took that one. Matt Smith versus Hector Arana Jr. That one went to Matt Smith. And then Gianna Evaristo versus Jerry Savoy. That one went to Jerry. And then in the semifinals, it was Karen Stouffer and Matt Smith meeting in the final round of the Pro Stock Motorcycle ranks. That win would go to Matt Smith, his first ever Pro Stock Motorcycle win since 2006 at the U.S. Nationals. So a big day for him. We had a chance to talk to him in the media center post-race. Here's what he had to say.
Win. Yeah, you know, we started with the Suzuki this weekend on Friday. Goal was to run that, and we had a brand new motor in the bike, so we had 2 motors now for that thing. And I just wasn't happy. I could not get the bike to leave the start line right. I had a bad 60-foot, didn't react right. It ran good up to the 8th mile, and I just shut it off. You know, I was frustrated. And so I just made the decision that night to bring out the V-twin. We've had good success with the V-twin, and that's what we brought out Saturday morning. And went to #1 qualifying spot until Angel went to 79 with a 6. So, but we did set the track, I think, speed record at 2:01, and we had a good bike the rest of the weekend. I mean, we were pretty much low of all of eliminations, and I think we were low from that point forward after Angel beat us that round in the next 3 qualifying passes. So all in all, I felt like we had the bike to beat. I didn't do my job today on the start line. I could not let the clutch go on time. I was just a little bit late every time, but the bike did its job.
Great, yeah. So Matt Smith taking home the Pro Stock motorcycle win. Going on to Pro Stock. What an incredible storyline out of that. Greg Anderson taking home the win. We'll talk more about that in a second. Let's talk about how the racing went. Like I said, Greg Anderson, he would knock off Fernando Quadra in the first round. Then it would be Derek Kramer versus Troy Coughlin Jr. Troy Coughlin will take home that. We go on to Matt Harford versus Chris McGahey, where Matt Harford would take the win. Bo Butner versus Fernando Quadra Jr. Fernando Quadra Jr. would take that win. We move on to Dallas Glenn versus Kenny Delco. Dallas Glenn would take that win. Christian Quadra versus Koretsky. Koretsky would lose. Eric Anders versus basically McGahey. Aaron would take that win. And then Aaron Stanfield versus Christian Caruso, where the big upset of that event happened, with Camry Caruso making the second round of the U.S. Nationals. When that race was finished, did an interview on the starting line with, I believe it was her dad, and the interview that they had together was absolutely electric. The way that he absolutely lost his mind, screaming about how they used to suck, but they don't suck no more, and they're here to win this thing. We'll go on to round two. Greg Anderson would beat Troy Coughlin Jr. Matt Harford would lose to Fernando Quadra Jr. Fernando Quadra Jr. making the semifinals of the U.S. Nationals. Then Dallas Glenn would beat Kyle Koretsky, and then Erica Enders would beat Camry Caruso. Semifinals, Greg Anderson would beat Fernando Quadra Jr., and then Dallas Glenn beating Erica Enders. So it was an all KD Racing final where Greg Anderson would take the win in a very emotional, very historic win. The 100th win for Greg Anderson, the 170th Pro Stock final round, and the 7th U.S. National event to be won for him, beating the tie that he had with Warren Johnson, now second only to Bob Glidden.
I don't know that I can explain how meaningful it is, Joe. It's incredible, and I kept asking myself, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to win? And it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be at Indy, obviously. So, what a cool deal. And I've made no bones about telling everybody all my career how special Indy is to me. It means everything. It means 10 times more than any other race. And there's a lot of other special racetracks on my schedule. Obviously Vegas with Ken living there, and Charlotte where I live, and Gator Nationals, and all these great racetracks that I've had great success at, but nothing compares to Indy. It's an out-of-body experience when you win here at Indy, and to win number 100 here, I just can't possibly ask for anything more than that. I'm a lucky man, to be able to say that I not only won 100 races, but win the 100th at Indy. It's incredible. It means everything to me, Joe. It means everything.
Moving on to the funny car category, an absolutely incredible race over there as well. Would end up with Ron Capps taking home the victory in that, his first win as a owner and a driver. So the way that would stack up, Ron Capps would beat Dale Creasy Jr. J.R. Todd would beat Cruz Pedregon. J.R. Todd having the best ET of the weekend with that run with a 3.856. John Force would beat Paul Lee. Blake Alexander would beat Chad Green. That win would bump Chad Green out and put Blake into the countdown for the championship. Robert Height would beat John Smith. Matt Hagan defeating Alexis DeJoria. Bob Taska III beating Jim Campbell, and Tim Wilkerson beating Bob B. Bodie. Moving on to round two, Ron Capps would defeat J.R. Todd. Blake Alexander would lose to John Force. Matt Hagan would lose to Robert Height. And Bob Taska III would beat Tim Wilkerson, setting up a semifinal between Ron Capps and John Force, where John Force would lose, and then Robert Height would beat Bob Taska in an absolute incredible throttle pedal for the victory. And then in the final round, it'd be Ron Capps versus Robert Height, where Ron Capps would finally get the monkey off his back and finally win the U.S. Nationals. He started off the weekend very upset after having a wall contact in Q1, was very frustrated with himself, came back the next day with a new body, the body that he won at Bristol with, so now it is undefeated, and then taking not only the Pep Boys All-Star call-out, but also winning the U.S. Nationals, totaling in a purse for him about $180,000, so he's very ecstatic to have that money.
I've tried every different scenario coming here. When I drove for the Snake, you know, I tried acting like it was the biggest race in the world. Obviously, that never worked. And then I came here and said, okay, it's just another race, and that never worked. We came close, had great race cars, and just my wife, whose birthday is always this weekend, September 6th, and it's tomorrow, but she's been coming with me every year. She was with me. I stood behind Blaine Johnson's car. They just announced I was getting the ride in Don Perdome's funny car the following season, and I stood behind my buddy Blaine when that accident happened. So it's an emotional place to come to every year. You know, I went to the hospital that day. There was just a lot of stuff I've got to get out of my head when I land, because it's got so many memories, that good and bad. So I just tried to keep the business side of team ownership out of my head. There was so much going on. There's a lot we're planning for next year, and I was just trying to act like a driver and just show up in the pit area and make my crew chief proud. And that's what I've done for 27 years, no matter whose car that I drove. And so I thought I was doing pretty good until I staged the car the first run Friday, and it went and got my Darlington stripe on it, and then I thought, oh my God, you're the biggest idiot. What are you doing? And we put the other body on it, the Supra, GR Supra body, and that is the body we put on in Bristol, and we went on to win the race. So Slugger, Labby, came over and he reminded me that body, that GR Supra body that we are running right now, is undefeated. It's never been beat, which we won the Bristol race and then put it on here. So I just tried to approach the weekend, you know, we had a few goals. We wanted to get around Matt Hagan, and it was a lofty goal at that point, but with points and a half, which is awesome that NHRA does that, we wanted to get into second place. Robert's so far out it doesn't matter. So we did want to try to achieve that. We set our small goals, and obviously to qualify. Well, Friday night scared me on that goal. So, but Guido and Madeline and the Napa Auto Care guys did what they do. And Guido said this several times to me, and it really tells you kind of how big a deal it is. And he mentioned it again before this run, that there is no way those guys, he was blown away by how well they put the car back together. And we had to change engines a couple times, but that car was a bracket car. And I rolled it in that final run there. It would probably win 88 again. But it went up there and did the same thing. I can't tell you how hard that is for a crew chief to do with a 12,000 horsepower motor, to go that consistent. I mean, it was like a bracket car, which is crazy for a nitro funny car. So that was my approach, and obviously getting to go through the race yesterday got those juices that I talk about, those countdown juices, because it's coming, and you got to be ready for it. And everybody gets a little lax. It's just another race, and then Indy's here. And then guess what? We're going to Maple Grove, and you start the playoffs to fight for the biggest thing in your life. So we accomplished all those small goals and then some, and the floodgates opened up.
Let's open it up to members of the media. Questions for our funny car winner, starting off with Phil Burgess from NHRA National Dragster.
Hey, Ron, all weekend and even coming into the call-out, everybody was talking about that they wanted to have lane choice. How big was it for you to have lane choice in the final?
I think it may have finally, the sun, when it came out, which I thought, it started popping out, and I thought, oh, I wish they would delay this a little bit and just let a little more temperature come. It's not a bunch, but the right lane, these are too tricky, and it's only perfect that it's Indianapolis and it's U.S. Nationals, because this, I don't care what race car driver or motorcycle, whatever, these are two tough lanes to negotiate. You can never relax like some of the tracks we go to where they're just perfect and you don't have to really, you've got to be on your game. They all do something. The right lane takes you inside if you're not careful, and then it wants to take you out at the other end. The right lane does all kinds of crazy stuff, so you've got to be on your game every single moment. So I think it did. I think it warmed up just enough in the final. You don't see those guys do that very often. They did it in semifinals, and we were hoping they were going to try and do it again. But Guido and Madeline, and I know Jimmy Prock, working all those years together, they love to beat each other, and it's a big challenge, and they love racing each other. And I've said this time and time again, the two people that benefit the most is Robert and I. We get to strap into these things and get it on, and there's no games played. We both go up there, stage the car, and he's as good as it gets. So you got to be on your game there too. But I said at the other end, that team, I know Task has been hot here lately, but that Jimmy Prock AAA team with Robert has been the car to beat, and they've raised the bar for everybody, including us, and they've made us better. So, and I told Robert at the other end, they make us better every time we go up there. So that was a tough one.
How soon did you know he was in trouble?
I didn't. I rolled it in, stepped on the gas, and listen, you start hearing weird noises, you start feeling weird stuff. It's the final round. I was feeling weird stuff on the burnout, and I was about to get on the radio. I'm not saying anything. So you start just feeling and hearing the strangest things. And no, I never saw him, but I expected that car to pop out its nose, you know, at any given time. I've been disappointed so many times. I just was waiting and waiting. I go, it's not going to happen. He's going to pop out there and take the win away. And then my win light came on, and I just couldn't believe it.
And Top Fuel, Brittany Forrest, going into the event, had the record for the ET and the record for the speed. So a huge moment for her as she goes into round one. She would defeat Dan Mercier. Josh Hart beat Doug Foley. Mike Salinas would beat Tony Schumacher. He was my pick for that race. Obviously, I was wrong. I was wrong on a lot of them. Clay Milliken would lose to Doug Coletta. Justin Ashley would beat Sean Langdon. Billy Torrance would beat Leah Pruitt, knocking out the Dodge Tony Stewart. Top Fuel out of the race. Steve Torrance would make it out of round one, beating Austin Brock, and Antron Brown beating Trip Tatum. In round two, Brittany Forrest would defeat Josh Hart. Mike Salinas would lose to Doug Coletta. Doug Coletta making the semifinals at the U.S. Nationals once again. Justin Ashley would beat Billy Torrance, and then Steve Torrance losing against Antron Brown, another guy who had a pick. He had the momentum to win this race. He lost it in the second round. In the semifinals, Brittany Forrest would beat Doug Coletta, and Justin Ashley would lose to Antron Brown. And in the final between Brittany Forrest and Antron Brown would upset Brittany Forrest by taking her out, denying her first win at the U.S. Nationals and collecting his fourth and now his first as an owner. We had a chance to talk to him. Here's what he had to say in the media center.
You know, when you come out here to Indy, you got 25 good teams. It took us 75 to make the show. 75. We qualified 6 with a 71, and we're trying to pop off a 60 to get even higher, and we didn't get our last shot to do it. And then we got here on race day. We had to race Trip Tatum, who is a giant killer. They come out here not just to show up, but to win races. And then when you race the 4-time world champ the second round, which it should have been like a final round, and then you go against our teammate, Justin Ashley, or Mike Green, Tommy Delago, Dustin Davis, that Phillips Connect team. They're en route to run for a championship. They're competing for a championship. Won a lot of races this year. And then you won the juggernaut in the final, Brittany Forrest, with David Grubnick. I call him the mad scientist, right? And one thing about this, our team, in the beginning of this year, we start off with everything new. From scratch, everything. Like, we had to put trailers together, cars together. Deals, we got a lot of good parts from DSR and DSM, and then we bought some other stuff from all over the place, Darramare, Cupcake CNC Performance, and we started putting this team together. And lo and behold, right now, is that it all started coming together. We thought we had a car that we could win Seattle, didn't go our way. And then we got to Topeka, we snuck out there, and then we had some really good performance in Brainerd, and then go all the way second round. And to come out to the U.S. Nationals, and it's keeping our head down, knowing that we can compete and race with any car out here. Man, and we got to that final when that win light came on. I can tell you all y'all right now, that was the longest 3.7 seconds in my entire life. That felt like a car accident. You know how everything happened in slow motion? I stepped on the gas, I'm like, oh, are we ahead? Then we got to half track, the car was motivating hard. And I fell nose over a little bit. I said, she just dropped the hole. Don't do this. Because you know Brittany, they run big speed and come on the big end with a hard charge. And then when that wind light came on, I was like, man, look what this team has come through, where we're at, from start to finish, from BC, Brian Karate, Mark Oswald, Brad, all of our guys put that work in to get those results. And that is a testament with all of our guys and gals, with my wife, my kids, being on our back. We're doing this as a family business with everybody involved, where we never lost the faith. We never gave up. People go, when are you going to get their first win? Beginning of the year, we weren't even talking about it. They're like, oh, Torrance ain't win. Torrance ain't win. This ain't happening. This ain't going on. And now, I think that we're in that conversation a little bit now. So, with the countdown being right in front of us, and us jumping from being 11th or 12th 3 races ago to being number 6.
We're the only guys to talk to. We had a chance to talk to Clay Milliken after his round 1 loss at the U.S. Nationals. Here's how he had to say following his round 1 loss and looking forward to Maple Grove. All right, staying here with Clay Milliken, driver of the 51 Parts Plus now Nurtec OBT dragster. First round loss. I know it's been frustrating for you the last few weeks. Just take us through that run, because it looks like you had him at about half track. What happened there?
Well, I'll tell you what, we had a great run. We left first. We out 60-footed him. We out 330. Coming up on half track, we put a hole out. You know what? That was just one of those drag races that we've had in the last 4 or 5 races in a row. I need to go add it up, but I promise you we probably have lost those 5 races by less than a tenth of a second. But you know what? When you do everything correctly and you still lose, it's one of those days where you just got to say, I got beat. That's all there is to it.
And then we also had a chance to talk to Justin Ashley following his semifinal loss. He had words to say about his weekend, starting off in Q1 with the track record, losing it to Brittany, and how he plans to possibly win the NHRA Top Fuel Championship along with trying to take home the Mr. 300 Talent Challenge brought on by his own sponsor. Justin Ashley, driving the Phillips Connect Top Fuel Dragster. You lost in your semifinal round against Antron Brown. Just tell us a little bit about what happened on that run.
It was just a good drag race. It's one of those deals where we really accomplished what we wanted to as a team. We went out there and ran well. Obviously, we wanted to run a little quicker, but the team's been doing such an outstanding job all weekend. As soon as we unloaded the car, it's been bad to the bone. Antron's team just did a better job that run. And, you know, as a driver, as a team, we're to continue learning, continue getting better. I think our Phillips Connect team had a great weekend. We didn't accomplish our objective, but we have a really good car going into the countdown.
And then lastly, I did an interview with Tony Schumacher following his round 1 loss. Here's what he had to say. I'm going to play you one clip because it is going to be its own video, because there is a quote you're going to want to hear out of that interview. So stay tuned either today or tomorrow, because it will come very, very soon. Obviously, a bit of a rough weekend. You started off the weekend with healing the 50-point penalty. Then you deal with the spider bite. Then you came into this weekend, it was a question if you're going to be able to make the show because of the rain on Sunday. Just kind of take us through this week, and also take us through what happened in your round 1 race.
Well, I was riding a Ducati, and I got bit by a black widow spider on Sunday. Came to India on Thursday, had a pretty bad run on Friday and Saturday. Found a big problem with the car, fixed it, ran good Sunday. It wasn't the perfect conditions, but ran good enough. Got on the show. I don't feel like I drove phenomenally today. I may have made a mistake that cost us the race, but that happens, man. This is racing. I got a ton of fans out there. I get to drive a race car, and I'm loving life. And, you know, at the end of the day, like I said yesterday, wearing my Spider-Man shirt that my wife got me, we are entertainers. And whether we get that trophy or not, the fans got to see a great show. They enjoyed it. God gave us great weather. Let's face it, it was supposed to rain all weekend, and here we are going into the finals. My teammate Ron Capps has a chance to win Indy for the first time, and we're loving life. The fans are smiling, people out there are moving, the conditions are great, and we're going to see a great race. So, you know, people always start to go, well, it was a rough weekend, but I got to drive a race car. And I grew up as a kid wanting to drive a race car, and I'm a 52-year-old man driving a race car. And if I could ask for anything more, I can't even think what it is.
All right, and finally, closing thoughts throughout the weekend. First off, you know what, Dave, you want to come in here? So I was talking about all weekend. You heard it from me about how much I talked about how incredible this U.S. Nationals was, top to bottom, not only from a fan experience, but from my experience as well as a media member. Just the way NHRA has opened their doors to letting me in here early in my YouTube career, if you want to call it that, has been nothing short of incredible. And everyone in the media center, everyone in the paddock has just been absolutely fantastic. You've come here, you do mostly IndyCar and IMSA sports car content with a little bit of NASCAR and F1 content there too. Someone who hasn't been to a U.S. National since '06, what has your experience been back at the drag races?
It's still just as loud as I remember it being. But I would say that I think that NHRA has really done a great job of being open, and like I said to you in my video, it's very forward thinking of them, because it's not par for the course with racing series to be this open to social media people and new media people. And so I think that's the big difference here, is that you know, you've done 3 videos that have taken off on NHRA. That is a very small sample size for them to be willing to take a chance on you and say, hey, come out to our biggest race and cover it. But I think that's one of the great things that NHRA has done, is be that open to social media. I think it's going to benefit them in the long run.
And then also, as someone who's been here all weekend, what was your biggest takeaway from this weekend? What is your biggest surprise?
How much I liked it. I mean, I know I'm interested in this sort of thing. I mean, you could race lawnmowers here, and I would be interested in it. If someone said, "Hey, you want to come to a race and it's lawnmowers?" I'd be all about it. But I think the big thing, and they're all cheering from, they're cheering for themselves, perhaps. But the big takeaway, I think, is just how interesting a drag race really is. I think there's a lot of intricacies. I think there's a lot of subtlety in it. There's technical innovation. The cars themselves are just as much, if not more, of a star than the driver is. And for me, that's about as old school of racing as it gets. I was also concerned a little bit about, the track length. I know that's been a big talking point in drag racing is 1,000-foot versus quarter mile. But I have to tell you, as a fan in the grandstand or in the media center, I didn't notice much of a difference between the quarter-mile track length and the 1,000-foot track length. I thought it was just as exciting. I thought the competition was just as strong. And we saw an all-time track record here from Brittany Force at 340 miles an hour. 340 miles an hour in 1,000-foot. That's something significant, and I think that is something that I will take away from this weekend, is just being being a part of that history, and that's what this is all about. It's what Indianapolis racing is all about. Whether you're here on the drag strip or on that 2.5-mile oval, it's all about the history and making records and setting history, and or some combination of those two things.
Exactly. Like, it's just been, this weekend has been incredible. Of all the weekends they could have invited us out here to do this thing, they gave us the weekend where not only the record was broken twice, but they also invited us out here the weekend. Ron Cap scores his first win as a team at the U.S. Nationals, his first U.S. Nationals ever. Antron Brown scores his first as a team owner, so 2 new team owners winning a U.S. Nationals. Greg Anderson scoring 100 wins in a Pro Stock car. Not only that, but now second all-time on the U.S. Nationals leaderboard for winners in the Pro Stock category of the U.S. Nationals. And then just
and Matt Smith switched bikes. He switched manufacturers of bikes in the middle of the week. He was on a Suzuki and went to a Buell in the middle of the week. I thought that was a fun little tidbit from the Pro Stock bikes.
Absolutely. It just again, the echo, just like what I've been saying all week. Everybody within that media center has just been absolutely incredible. The way that they have opened their doors to us, having the amount of people that have come up to us, having just people you wouldn't expect. Probably so I have had people come to me. I had someone come up to me and tell me that I inspired them to make drag racing history videos, which was absolutely jaw-dropping, that somebody would be inspired by anything that I could do. Is just ridiculous. And it was one of the highlights of the weekend, along with the fact that there was a guy from Competition Plus who is literally a news site for drag racing that I look up to. The content that they do is literally the gold standard in terms of drag racing coverage. They're the only people that are higher than them is the NHRA themselves. And I had someone come up to them and not even recognize me. They just asked, "Are you Mighty Mac?" And then just telling them how much they like my content. And also the drivers this week have just been so incredible. From walking through the sportsman pits and people just opening their doors and telling us their story about who they are, why they came here, what they do. And then just on top of that, to go into the nitro pits and then have all these drivers just, yes, you don't even have to go to a media person. You have to go to anybody. You say, "Hey, are you want to do an interview?" And they say yes. And they literally open their door and let you walk into their pit and do the interview in front of their car. There's no other motorsport like it. Usually if you're going to do an interview, you're going to do it right there on the spot out in the outside in front of everybody. But they let me in there into their pit to do this interview, and it's just been absolutely incredible. The drivers here are polite. The people in the grandstands are polite. Even everybody in the media center. I want to give a shout out to every single person in that media center. If you're watching this video, thank you for all that you've done this week to give me the opportunity to come out here, give me the opportunity to grow this channel, and hopefully expose both of us to have the sport exposed to more people, because obviously that's obviously their end goal. That's the end goal that I had with this. That's the end goal they had with inviting both of us out here, is to get more people out here. And I genuinely think they more than likely are going to do that with the way that how this weekend's gone.
Well, I think it's important too. I mean, I think it's, like I said, it's forward thinking, but I think that it's no secret that drag racing isn't as big as it has been in the past. And one way to get people to go to drag races or watch drag racing on TV is to almost kind of find a way to engage other motorsport fans. And the best way to have long-term success is to engage younger motorsports fans. Well, where do you find them? You find them on social media, engaging with your videos, my videos, other people's videos. I think that even if you watched content this weekend from me or somebody else talking about drag racing and you were exposed to it, I think there's a chance that you'll watch a race and get something out of it. I mean, I think, you don't have to become a huge drag racing fan if you watch stuff about drag racing on YouTube, but I think that there's always some value in motorsport, no matter what it is. I mentioned the lawnmowers earlier. There's an intricacy, there's a talent here, there's personality here that it perhaps isn't in other series. All around, it's a great package. It's a pretty good product, and it's fun to watch. It just needs more people exposed to it, and I think, again, NHRA is doing the right thing to get people exposed to the sport.
Absolutely. Well, to every single one of you who has supported me through this, thank you. To every single person in the media center who came and say hi, thank you. To all the drivers who gave me the time of day to talk to them, I thank you as well. To the guy in the freaking suites who walked all the way down here to do an interview, which you're going to see in another...
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't him. He wouldn't be allowed in the suite. Just everybody, straight up. Thank you to the NHRA. Thank you to Allie. Thank you to every single PR person that walked up to me, every driver, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to come out here, giving me the opportunity to do what I do, and have an opportunity to do something I dreamed of. So, just thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following and playing along on Twitter throughout the weekend. This has been Mighty Mac, and I will see you in the next video. Also, lastly, Brian Lone, I talked to him about this. Bring back the Winston Shootout. Top Fuel versus Funny Car, bring it back. I'll see you next time.